Today we'll be talking about emotional intelligence. So before I go into the topic, let's introduce the panel members. Ilakkiya?
Hello, I'm Ilakkiya. I'm a third-year college student studying genetics with a minor in psychology.
Yashika?
Hi, I'm myself Yashika, and I'm pursuing MA Psychology from IGNU.
Thank you. And my name is Akshay, and I'll be the moderator for today's discussion. Let's go into the discussion. So the topic is emotional intelligence. So we need to be on the same page with the topic. So according to you guys, what is emotional intelligence?
It is the ability to understand and manage our own emotion in a positive way to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize individually and others also.
That's a great answer. Ilakkiya, do you have anything to add?
Yashika did a really good job explaining it. I just think I would like to emphasize the part of communicating effectively. You can effectively understand your own emotions, communicate about them to others, and also understand others' emotions well and communicate with them to support them better. So.
Okay. And you guys have given a very good answer because I found a definition from Google, and then so I want to say that, and you guys have covered every part of that answer. So emotional intelligence has like 4 parts. One is self-awareness, where do you understand what you're feeling and you understand why you're feeling it. And the second thing is self-management, which is are you able to manage your emotions. So for example, if you get provoked easily, that means like you don't have good self-management. And the third one is empathy, which is the ability to understand what the other person is going through by placing yourself in their position and trying to understand what they're going through. And then the fourth one is social skill, which is basically being able to put these 3 skills into action and letting the other people know that you do have the skill. And that's the one I found on Google. Do you guys have anything to add for this one? Okay. So the next question is how do different genders fare with emotional intelligence? So on the scale of self-awareness, self-management, empathy, and social skills, what do you guys think? Like genders, like how do males do? How do females do? Like who's better at what? What do you guys think? Ilakkiya?
Uh,
Go ahead, Yashika.
Yashika, you can go.
okay. I think males have a low emotional quotient because they are in our society or in Indian culture, this is said that boys can't cry or can't be more they can't support they can get support from someone or etc. Ilakkiya, you can take it.
Thanks, Yashika. I want to ask again, Akshay, could you re-explain what the social skills part of emotional intelligence is again?
Yes, the social skills is the place where you are able to show these 3 skills of self-awareness, self-management, and empathy to others. That it's not just about you knowing that like you are good at this. For example, with self-awareness, you know what you're feeling sad, but then are you able to communicate that with another person? So that's the social skill part where being able to show that to another person and like letting them know like what you're feeling. So that's the social skill part.
Okay, cool. I will say that women have higher emotional intelligence because of probably socialization, the way we are raised, the way we are taught to behave in a way. And I feel like this is kind of common across all cultures, where women are always seen to be more maternal, more caring, and girls would probably mimic their moms, and then like that's how it keeps going on generation after generation. Because to be more caring, you have to be more emotionally intelligent, especially empathy towards other people, being able to show empathy to others. Those are probably the biggest traits of motherhood that make a difference in kids' lives. And so daughters would see that and imitate that. But I don't know um, a lot of fathers who kind of do the same thing in a way, and or at least it's not a traditional role for the father to be the one who's caring in a family situation. Generally, it's relegated to the mom. And so if boys try to imitate their fathers, they're not going to get the same exposure to empathy towards other people, or being self-aware of one's feelings, self-management of one's feelings. If you get easily angry, is that controlled easily, or do you just show that anger to others? I don't think guys have a lot of good role models, because guys weren't taught that this is a part of an important thing to learn in a way. Like maybe the role models didn't show it, but if the role models showed it, I think both girls and guys can equally have good emotional intelligence skills. It just depends on who they were raised with, what kinds of examples they had. But predominantly, I would say women are more likely to be more emotionally intelligent.
That's a very comprehensive answer, and it's a pretty good answer as well. So I'll actually go on like like one by one with these things. So with self-awareness, um, if it's I want to say use positive emotions and negative emotions, and by no means it means it has like a negative connotation to it. It's more of anger and frustration and all those things tells you a different thing, and that's why I'm saying negative emotion. So anyway, with positive emotions, men are usually better at being aware of the positive emotions, whereas with negative emotions, females are better at being aware of what they're feeling. And then with self-management, men are better at like not crying, like those sort of things. They're good at minimizing like their feeling at the moment, but then sometimes they do it like too much. So it's a sort of thing where you have self-management is also more about being able to manage it for the moment and then do it in the right area, whereas sometimes men just don't like show any emotions, and like that's not good either. And then with empathy, women are obviously better at this, like everybody knows that. So I already have like go on that. So and then obviously social skills is the one part where both men and women are equal. It's they just show different things in a different way, and it's a sort of thing where it's not one is better than the other. There's like different in the way that they show, and it shouldn't be compared, or it shouldn't be asked to be the same, because that means they're taking things away from the gender. And so yeah, so that's the way for social care. That's actually my opinion. Everything else is actually like from proper data. um yeah, Ilakkiya?
I guess I just wanted to add really quickly. I really like Yashika's point that guys are told not to cry, and that affects the ability that they have to really pay attention to their emotions or experience it. I feel like there's also a stigma that if you are good at communicating your emotions and being empathetic and kind and caring and those kind of traits, if men do it, they're seen as being more feminine, and then they're teased or ridiculed for that. So I think it's really hard. It's harder for guys to be socially there. I guess have good social skills with emotional intelligence, because even if they can do it for themselves, if they do it for others, then seen they're ridiculed for it or negatively stereotyped for it. Just want to add that.
Yeah, I do agree with that. During my puberty, sometimes I knew what was going on, but then I felt like if I show that, then it'll be bad. So I would sort of project a different image of myself, which I thought was good. But then like once I got to college, I actually understood everything, and like no, it was not. But like it is like what they saying. I do have anecdotal experience to say that what both of them said is true. You already sort of like indulged in this a bit, but how does a lack of one specific area of EQ affect a person? So, like a lack of self awareness, or lack of self management, or lack of empathy. Like, how does that affect a person? What if they have two out of three, and of course, social skill as well, but then like the other two, if they if they have it and the one they don't have, like how would that affect a person? Ilakkiya?
See, they're quite interlinked. If you're not aware of your own feelings, if you cannot identify how you are feeling in a given moment, are you upset at someone? Are you frustrated? Are you disappointed? You know, being able to distinguish the nuances of what you're feeling. If you cannot have that part of self-awareness, or if you cannot be self-aware in that regard, how are you going to manage the emotions? You know, you can only manage what you know. So, being able to identify it, you know, definitely, if you can't do that, you can't manage your emotions, at least what I'm thinking. And uh, I guess empathy would also kind of require self-awareness in a way, because you will need to be able to recount your experiences and what kinds of emotions you are feeling, that to then be able to try to put yourself in the shoes of the other person, then imagine, you know, if I was going through this, how would I feel right now? How would I want someone to talk to me? That requires you to again be aware of how do you emotionally handle certain situations. Um, and you can't be empathetic towards others without having good social skills to communicate your empathy.
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty good answer. Yashika?
I agree with Ilakkiya, and more to add that lack of awareness and lack of self-esteem is the major drawback for any of the gender. If you suppress any of the gender, like male or female, it would affect both mentally, physically, emotionally, as they wish. It can ruin or it can make them step up for their career or personality or etc. So it is on that individual that how they are taking them as a self-awareness test.
Okay, okay. You bring up an excellent point with self-awareness. Some people they might think that they're sad, but they might be angry, and or they might think they're angry, but then they might be disappointed, and because of those reasons, they are good at self-management. So they know that okay, I'm feeling this, so I'm feeling anger, and to get the anger out of my body, I have to maybe scream at a person, or like they choose something like that, or maybe they have like they might actually like do some better way, or maybe journaling or something like that. But they're not self-aware, but then they are they do understand that they have to do something, but if not, they're feeling bad, and understand the need to like do something about it, and that's very important. And the second thing is, of course, like if you don't have self-management, if you're aware of like you're angry, then you might easily get provoked. And then, of course, when even when things where people say something for like not a bad, not saying it jokingly, but then somehow sometimes the victims sort of take offense a lot more because like they already have like a negative self concept of themselves as a self identity, and sometimes uh, even things other people don't mean it in a negative way, they sort of think that it probably is, and then they beat up themselves, and that would be negative self management at that area. And then of course, if you don't have empathy, then you might think, hey, I'm feeling angry, and if I scream, I'll feel better. And then you don't really think about the other person, so you just like, go and scream at them, but then you're not thinking about the other person. Technically your EQ, because of that in the social skill, it won't be seen as a good thing, because empathy is also a huge part of EQ, and if you don't show that, then they might, even though you are doing the right job with doing something about your anger, if you do it in the wrong way, then of course it's seen negatively as well. That's my answer to this. Ilakkiya?
Tangential question. If we're talking about this later, I can save it till then. But how do, is it okay for an external person to judge another person's management style, right? So I know people who, when they're angry, they decide to, punch things, and it's not people, right? It's always like different things that are there. But one, it scares people around them. Two, it's harmful to the own person. You're hurting your hands in a way. So are there good Okay, I think I know the answer that yes, there are good and bad ways of managing emotions, but how do you determine what is good or bad for an individual? Is that something we should even try to do?
That is a very good thing. I have a similar one, but like we can go with this one. So I can give my answer to this. So of course, it's like the first important part is like through your reaction. Let's say it's punching, or let's say it's like journaling, whatever it is that affecting you in a good way? Is it actually like reducing your anger? Is it reducing your sadness? Because some people it might be just like it may not be punching, it could be like talking to someone, someone they trust, or to some people it could be, you know what, I would just want to distract myself from this, so they might just like go back into their comfort zone and maybe like read a book or like watch a TV show, and that might be the way that they handle this. And of course, I personally think that men usually do the distraction way, where they maybe like watch TV show that to like take uh, go into a zone where they don't have to be the adult, they don't have to think of these things. Then like once they calm down, they're able to like think of them very rationally. Whereas female, they're better at usually just like talking it out loud with another person, with a trusted person, and that way once they say it out loud they feel better, because it's not just in their heart right now, it's like it's out there, and once it's out there, like they feel better. And so I wouldn't say like I would say like don't judge a person by how they do it. Of course, sometimes they may just like not know the other ways of doing it. For example, like if nobody told someone, hey, you can actually talk about it, and then so give them the option of doing whatever they want. But then punching is still bad because it's self harm, or actual harm, depending on like who you punch or what you punch. Uh, but So if it's like, you know, like if a person actually just wants to watch TV, like do it this way, that's his process or her process. I'm not going to judge, which is what I'm saying here. Like, don't judge what they how they do it. And if it's like talking, and if you're in a position where you are able to be in a person like listen, then do that. If you're not in a position, then potentially it might be a place where you might have to like get a therapist or someone involved, because it might be triggering to you as well. So that depends on like how bad it is. It could be had a bad day. It could be something like, okay, this is something that's not letting me move forward with my life. And depending on like what the conversation is, sometimes you have to be there because you are also involved. So it all depends on what it is. It's a case by case issue.
Thanks. Yashika, would you like to add anything to that question? How do you determine whether someone's self-management style of emotions is good or bad? Should we even do that?
We can't judge on that, but everyone coping style is different. So uh, some people do punching or hitting to someone to manage their anger, or some sit and watch TV, as you both said. But some people have different coping style with different management, so they have to manage themselves with their self awareness and self motivation. But they can't go and slap anyone in front of them, or in their lane, or because it gives a wrong impact on uh, different individuals. So we have to manage by calling close person, by talking to them, or watch movies, or watch doing their most probably the favorite things that they do, like playing sports, or talking, etc. Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
I completely agree with the sports one. Sometimes I've been angry, and then I go and play football or basketball. Football is soccer in US, and so when I do that, you could potentially play a bit aggressive, and then you're like physically doing it, and also with the running and everything. Sometimes it takes your mind off this, and it also needs a lot of focus. So it takes your mind off that as well. And sometimes it might actually just help that you have this pent up anger or something like that, because you may be doing well because of it. And sometimes, of course, you have to get to a point where you need to be calm. You need to analyze things. But sports definitely helps. Okay, I'm the moderator. Yeah, so I'll go to the next question. So, what's the difference between fear, frustration, anger, and disappointment? And in English, everybody knows what they mean, but then when you're actually feeling it, sometimes you're not really gauging it every time. You tend to think, oh, it's a negative emotion. You just, like, put it in that one umbrella, and then like sort of do something with it. So how do you, like, what is the difference between these four emotions: fear, frustration, anger, and disappointment? And how do you deal with these emotions?
Fear is a emotion or feeling that is that that is individual can't do that. People are having social anxiety. They are afraid of to meet new people, or the old ones who are in this case, the corona one, where you can't go. Now people are facing troubles because they are in 1 year lockdown, so they are facing more problems with social anxiety, or due to that the frustration is occurred. So that the case is more vulnerable for that person. So they need most help for that. The individual is facing more trouble for this thing. And the third one is, can you repeat?
Yes, it's fear, frustration, anger, and disappointments.
And anger is that you can't you are facing your fear, then it's becoming frustration, so that is becoming your anger. You can't cope up with that frustration or fear, so it comes into anger. So this this whole things become a disappointment. So chain is there for so sometimes it becomes so disappointed for that person, so they can't go with the things. Like I said, social anxiety is the most top of the uh, current needed thing for various individuals.
Okay, you bring up some excellent points. The first one is sometimes it's a cycle with before it even happens, you have a fear that, oh shit, this could happen, and then you worry about it. You sometimes procrastinate about it, and obviously, so that is the fear part. And then it happens, and then you don't really like it, so you feel frustrated that it happened, and then with the self-management part of it, where you actually deal with it, is where you do something outward, that's like the anger, where
Yeah, that
of course,
sudden outburst comes out
yes,
as.
I hope I'm showing the right person.
Yeah.
Yes. And then finally, with disappointment, is at the end of the day, like, you wanted something and it didn't go the way that you wanted. So sometimes it could be a cycle. But anyway, Ilakkiya?
I thought what Yashika did by kind of relating them all into a cycle of emotions was really interesting. I was planning to just define them as individual emotions. Uh, so I thought that was very nice. Um, well, I feel like most of these words, it's easy to experience the emotion just by reading the word. You kind of know what it feels like. I would say frustration and disappointment are similar, except it's basically when something isn't going your way, but is your upsetness tinged with anger. That's frustration. And if it's tinged with sadness, then it's disappointment. And between fear and anger, it's maybe kind of two different ways to respond to a situation as well. Fear is kind of, maybe the flight version, more in a flight or fight comparison. Fear is kind of, you want to hide, you want to run away, you want to preserve your well-being, you don't want to risk anything. I'd say primarily you don't want to risk anything. There's a chance of something going wrong, and that's why you're afraid. Anger is more, if you're confident in a way, you want to take up the space, you want your thing heard, you are ready to put in the effort it takes against whoever or whatever it is to kind of make your point heard. So I think that's how I would think of the differences between these words.
That's a pretty good explanation as well with the differences between anger and fear. I now that you say it, I can see that you have the fight or flight tendency, and then it could also be just with the person being an alpha person or a beta person. You could sort of tend to see which one they potentially go for. The way I see it, fear is sort of like brace for impact. Hey, like I don't want this to happen. Anything but this. So like it's sort of you're fearing an outcome. Whereas frustration is after the outcome has happened, where you don't like the thing that has happened. Anger is when you want to protect something. So it could be like for example, you could get angry at a child because you don't want the child to get hurt, or it could be you get angry because you might actually be like not feeling angry at all. You might be feeling frustrated or disappointed, and you might just be projecting out loud where you show it as anger, because anger is seen as an okay emotion to show, whereas sometimes fear and frustration and disappointments are not. And I don't know how it is with females, but then like sometimes with males, that thing is there where it's okay to show your anger, but it's not really that okay to show your disappointment, vulnerability, and so they don't really have the choice of crying to go there. So the way they do it is, of course, through distraction, or if not through anger. And then, of course, disappointments is again in the same alley as frustration, where frustration is more of something where you're frustrated by it, you're still able to like pick yourself up. Where disappointment is something I feel like like a step two of frustration, where no, like it's actually sort of like bothering you to an extent where you actually call it a disappointment, and potentially you might lash out with this as well. So that's my answer to this. Do you guys have anything to add, or can I go to the next question? Ilakkiya?
I think it's interesting that you kind of brought up, anger might be a more easily accepted emotion to be expressed compared to frustration or disappointment, fear. And I see that when you said it, it made sense. But in my mind, logically, I'm also thinking I would rather have someone frustrated than angry, because I feel like the damage someone can do to the external environment is less if they're frustrated or disappointed, and more if they're angry. That was something I was thinking. And it's very cool that we all think of the emotions in different ways. It's like the same four words, but the way we anecdotally explain them was very different. And I think that does a lot.
I totally agree with that. Like, anger is like not a great way to like show it. And in fact, if someone is angry, then probably don't want to be with that person. Usually because they're angry and you don't know what they might do. You don't know to the extent, like you don't know where their boundaries are, and that could induce fear in you. Uh, so I totally agree with that. But I was just talking about more of a societal thing where I'm trying to say why men would potentially like do it, because I see anger more in men than women, and anger is also like an emotion that you show. So, and like of course, women also have things that they want to protect, and they should do it in different ways. Uh, so yeah. So yeah. Okay, the next question is how responsible are you to other people's emotions? And I'll repeat the question again because it is a very important question. How responsible are you to other people's emotions? And like with all the interaction, how responsible are you to their emotions?
Um, no, we are not responsible for anyone's. I think that for anyone's emotion, we are not responsible, because as we say things, how they are taking, how they are understanding, and how what is their perspective, it's all different for different individuals. Like no one is same on the same level. Everyone has different perspective or different perception, so we can't match every time.
That's very interesting. Ilakkiya?
Because the question was asking like how responsible are you to others' emotions?
Yes.
And is that different from how responsible are you for others' emotions?
No, it's the same thing. It is like
Okay.
said in different words.
Okay. Um, Maybe you're responsible because of your actions and your behaviors, depending. If I broke a cousin's bangle, it's they're gonna be disappointed at me. So yeah, maybe I am responsible for um, some of their emotions, and in that regard. But other than that, I would say it's pretty much up to um, you are not responsible. Again, what Yashika said, because you it is up to it's just what they're experiencing, whether it's positive or negative emotions. I mean, those labels kind of do a bad job because then they make negative emotions seem like undesirable and that you want to suppress those emotions, like feeling sad or frustrated or upset or exhausted are bad things to be experiencing. So I guess just regardless of what emotion anyone's feeling, it's just what they're experiencing. That's how they're processing the situation, and it's not you who determine how they're processing the situation. It's them and how their life experiences have shaped the way they respond. So uh, you're not responsible for it. You're not the cause. If they think you're the cause, then that's them projecting their issues, their experience, their emotions onto you when you are not the cause. But it's nice to be responsive to others' emotions and care for them in that way, and like give them space to talk about it, listen without judgment. Um, Even then, it's not your responsibility to for their success in a way. If you don't manage to make them happier or let calm by the end of the thing, it's just not your responsibility. You didn't fail in a way, even if you decide to give your listening ear to someone.
Uh, Great points. I do disagree with both of you, but great points. Uh, so the way I see it, it depends on the person. So, for example, if I was a teacher, then yes, I am responsible for certain things the students can do because like with the position that I hold, I do have certain responsibilities. So I am to an extent responsible with how they take it, and of course, it's not responsible. I'm solely responsible. That's not how it works. They have a part to take in that as well. But if I'm a teacher, if I'm a parent, if I'm a fatherly figure, like with everything like that, you are responsible. I mean, it's not that you're only responsible with very different things. It's not that you're only responsible because if you're only responsible, then like it's a sort of thing where if you did it and that's why this happened, and it is your fault. That's not how it works. You just happen to do it. It happened to affect them in this way, and then you do see it, and you can see that it can be handled in a better way, so you improve yourselves. That's the way I see it. So while it's your responsibility, it is also sometimes just because it's your responsibility doesn't mean you have to make them feel better as well. Sometimes it's on them to like feel better. Sometimes it's on you to feel better. It depends on case by case. And then with friendships, sometimes if my friend, he or she is not the person who would actually say whether they're good, like whether they are good with like talking about their emotions, talking about how they're feeling. Sometimes I would have to like think for them, hey, maybe this might make them sad, and then I feel like it is a bit of my responsibility where, hey, like, how do you feel about this? And that gives them a room to make them feel better. And it's also the fact that when you're sad, and then, I mean, sorry, when they're sad and then you're not sad, you're feeling normal, then it's sort of your responsibility where you are able to think rationally, whereas they're not able to think rationally. They have emotions that they want to say it out loud. Of course, if it's affecting you, then like again, therapist, like yeah, they are scientifically trained for this to handle this in a scientific way. So maybe you can just like tell them to go there. But it doesn't. I wouldn't say you guys have no responsibility. I would say everyone has a certain amount of responsibility, but it's very important to know that you guys are not solely responsible. At the very least, minimum, it would be you and the other person who was affected. So because something happened, don't think, oh my god, I did something bad and now I have to fix it. No, like it doesn't always work that way. Just because you're responsible doesn't mean that. So that's my answer. Do you guys have anything to add since I disagreed with you?
I think we are responsible for how we react if we know someone's emotional state. But if we open ourselves up to being responsible for their emotional state, then it makes it opens up them it opens up the avenue for them to start blaming us for what they're experiencing, and that may not always be the case. Like in a situation where you actively cause distress to someone, yeah, then you are responsible. But I would say in other situations, you're taking on the burden of emotional management. If we're talking about emotional intelligence, self-management, we're kind of taking that on for the other person, and I feel like that is not necessary. It puts down one's own emotions because you're like constantly trying to manage for the other person's emotions, and I don't think that's great.
Okay, great points. Let's go to the next one. Why does it take high EQ to admit that you were wrong? I can say my point. I can say why I think you need high EQ. You need high emotional intelligence because, as we defined earlier in the video, it's about self-awareness, self-management, and empathy. So first, you need to know that saying that I am wrong actually makes the other person know that, hey, so this is actually happening. And if it's a fight, then you letting them know, hey, actually, you know what, I was wrong. And if it was something that you did wrong that affected them, hey, like, you're doing that. That is like with empathy, like you get to know how the other person feels about it, and the need for you to say that if you're wrong, yes, it's wrong. And the second thing is of course the self-awareness, where once you say you're wrong, sometimes like you are showing your vulnerable side. So you have to understand your emotions, that hey, this might not be easy for you, and it should be acknowledged that it's not easy, because yes, it is hard, and sometimes it even has repercussions. So it's not something that you can just do it easily, and that needs to be acknowledged. Then of course the third one is emotional, I mean, what's that? Yeah, self-management. So self-management is one where like once you have those feelings, how do you manage it? Do you even after knowing these things, you still tend to say wrong? And then of course sometimes when you say wrong, the other person might pile up on you. Hey, yeah, of course you were wrong, and then like do those things. So how do you handle that situation? Or they might actually be a good person and like be gracious. That, hey, you know what? It happened. Humans make mistakes. Let's move on. And like, how do you react to that? And sometimes people are not even good at taking praises. So saying wrong, like that you're wrong, is way harder. So yeah, that's my way of looking at it. Do you guys have anything to add?
What you said was very comprehensive, so that was pretty nice. I generally think of being able to admit that one is wrong as being emotionally mature, but to be emotionally mature is to have emotional intelligence. So I'm trying to make that gap, um, I guess, to understand or to be able to articulate why it takes high emotional intelligence to admit you were wrong. But I, maybe I would agree with the self-awareness part, because you would need to know your motives and your reasons for admitting you are wrong, recognizing you are wrong, so that even regardless of how the other person reacts, whether they pile onto you because they're just mean like that and say, ah, yes, you are wrong, I have won, here's all the other bad things you've done in your life that you are wrong about. Whether they react like that or they say, hey, it's okay, mistakes happen, like you were saying, regardless of which way it goes, if you are self-aware of the reasons you're saying sorry and the emotions you're experiencing, you'll be able to stay more centered, regardless of how the conversation goes. And that makes it easier for you to admit you're wrong the next time. And so just being able to do that requires that kind of emotional self-awareness. So cool. Good question.
Yeah, totally agree. And I just want to say, like being able to do that, I'm just repeating what I already said, which is, when you say you're wrong, you could potentially like have a hit on your confidence. But then, that's where stress management comes in. That's where self-awareness comes in. I mean, it's not stress management. Self-management comes in, and then self-awareness comes in. And just because you were wrong this time doesn't make you any less. And being able to do that is where these two come in. Okay, I'll ask the next question, which is, how does emotional intelligence affect leadership?
In a huge way. If you can't manage your emotions, they will come in your, let's say, matlab, you have ego problem, or you have high ego, so you can't work with a team, because every time someone suggests you something, you will stand in front of them, even though they are having a beneficial point to be point to make that happen, but you don't want to listen because of your ego. So that's why it affects your leadership qualities.
Yes, I agree with your point. Ilakkiya, do you have anything to add?
I would agree with Yashika. It plays a large role in how good of a leader you are. Um, and I'm thinking of it more in terms of empathizing with your peers or the people you are the leader of. Because whatever team you're working in, you have goals, you have deadlines, you have things to do. But if you are emotionally intelligent, you might be able to listen to other people, be able to recognize, maybe there's something going on in their life that's hard right now, or they need more time to complete it. It'll make you more flexible with your team, and they'll feel more heard. And that in that way, it can greatly boost your leadership skill to be emotionally intelligent, so that you are helping your team more. And emotion management would also be a good big thing, like kind of what Yashika said. If you cannot manage your emotions and the way you react to other people giving suggestions, or uh, whether it's good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, if you can't manage your emotions well, and you constantly have that spill over onto your teammates, that'll make you a terrible leader, as well. So emotional intelligence plays a good big role in what kind of leader you are, and your leadership style.
You guys have given great points. I don't have anything to add. So I'll move on to the next question. Next question. Why is emotional intelligence important for a teacher? And in this case, I am saying a school teacher. Of course, it's important for college teachers as well, but this is specifically for school teachers. Ilakkiya?
Teachers are wonderful. I love teachers. They're very cool people. You get a lot of great memories with them. Just sad to say that teachers are great people. Pay them more. Okay, so you, it's important because teachers are one of the biggest role models outside of parents for kids. And if the teacher is able to display effective emotion management skills, especially social skills, if they're able to communicate, hear the emotions I'm experiencing, or be able to speak with someone about how they're feeling, being empathetic, being able to express their emotional intelligence can go a huge way in the kinds of behaviors that their students will learn to model and follow later in life. So if the teacher is emotionally intelligent, they can communicate it well, one, they'll make their students feel heard, and whether students recognize that um, that this is these are the traits, that this is what they're doing to make me feel that way, or they just feel, this is nice, this teacher likes me, or I feel accepted here. They'll know that, to pay attention to the teacher in a way, and like what they do. And so because of that, they will try to imitate what they're doing. It's good for the students overall. And it'll also be very important, because if there are ongoing problems at home, if the teacher is emotionally intelligent and their empathetic ability to pick up on what other emotions people are feeling, their students are feeling, recognizing changes in behavior, things like that, it can make them a very useful advocate for their student in situations like that, and recognize when things are going wrong. So that's why it's important.
I totally agree with your point. Teachers are role models. Teachers are leaders. Teachers, but the biggest part of them is that they can't be. You know what? I'm gonna be this style of leader. No, because of the amount of students that they have, they basically have to go through every single type of leadership depending on how the other person is feeling. They have to be a jack of all trades with leadership, and of course, with empathy, they have to know what's happening, and in a way, they can't just say, you know what, this is how school works. You get homework, you do this. But then that, yeah, they are teaching everything, not just from just facts and figures and science and mathematics. They also teach everyone about the values which are important. And because they do it from kindergarten all the way till 12th standard, 12th grade, they have a very, very important role to play. And even now you tend to know that who are some good teachers in your school, who are some bad teachers in your school. And sometimes a student would hate a subject because they had a bad teacher, and they would just, that might be the reason why they didn't go on to study that subject. And sometimes the reason why they got interested into a subject is because they had a very good teacher, and the teacher truly understood what the student wanted. And that was the reason why they pushed themselves, because they knew the teachers were backing them in a way that they liked it. So yes, that is why I personally think emotional intelligence is very important to a teacher. Of course, this is my opinion. You can have a different opinion as well. Yashika, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay, okay, okay. Um, we are almost towards the end, so this is the last question with the recording, uh, and then we'll ask for closing thoughts. So, what are some ways to tell people that they are respected and cared for? So, this question is basically about the social skill part, where how do you make the other person know that you do respect them and you do care for them and you want them to know it, but it's the question is about how do you do it?
By being empathetic if you can't help them, but be there to listen them, to make suggestions, to be there for their hardships, or any of the greatest thing that is happening in their life. Every time you have to be there to make them cope up with certain things like anxiety or anger, frustration, depression, etc. So they will not remember you for that, and for that you can come come in a very observant way, because not everyone is there who comes towards you and share their feelings. Sometimes you have to go and ask them. Thank you.
You bring up some excellent point. I really like the ending as well, where some people actually ask for help, and then you have to help them. Whereas with other people, you have to see that, hey, they need help, and sometimes helping them might affect them in a way where, wait, are you telling me I need help? Does that mean something's wrong with me? And then so you have to do it in a way that they don't feel bad, but you have to do it in a way where, so they, since they need it, you should do it. And that takes skill, and like teachers, some teachers have that skill, some teachers
Yeah,
might have
like
to
in
learn
a
that skill.
good way. Not in a bad way that you have to tell me, no, no, you have to tell me, not like that. If they are okay with you, then they will say in one or two attempts to you.
Totally agree. And one important thing is teachers. It's usually not just one teacher who's working with the student. So sometimes, if there are like say five teachers who's interacting with the student, maybe out of the five teachers, one like you might notice it, but then the other teacher might be able to help the kid better because they have a better relationship. And if you sense that, maybe you should let that person handle this. Or sometimes in my school, we had class teachers who were sort of like taking care of the whole school. I mean, taking care of the whole class. They were in charge for each of these students. So maybe you let them, hey, so this is happening. So what do you think you can do? And you can also ask, you don't have to be the one, hey, so this is happening. So you have to do this. No, sometimes you can go and ask the senior teachers, hey, so this is happening. I don't know what to do. What can we do? And of course, hopefully they have good answers because they've been there, and sometimes interacting with other people might help that. So yeah, that's the way I see it. Ilakkiya?
Yashika brings up really good points, and her approach is more on, in the moment, how do you show that you respect and care for an individual? I was kind of thinking on some general things that you could do at any time to convey this. And, um, compliments are nice. Let them know that you're thinking of them, that you care for them. Show that you respect. Don't constantly interrupt them. Don't constantly second guess them. If there are um, rules set in place, try to abide by them. Be respectful in that regard to show that you genuinely care. They're not just saying things and you're going to ignore them. You will follow what they're saying, or you'll pay attention to what they're saying. That's one way you can show respect. And active listening, I would say. A lot of people, it's really easy for us to want to give advice or suggestions to people when they're asking for help or sharing what they're feeling. I mean, if they're asking for help, then yeah, give advice. But if they're just sharing what's on their mind, just being able to listen there without any judgment, like don't give any facial reactions that show you're disgusted or disappointed or upset at what they're saying. Just be wholeheartedly there listening, nodding your head along. Time is one of the most valuable gifts you can give to someone. So if you're spending a lot of time with someone, it is a very easy way to show that you care enough about them to spend a certain time of your day, a certain part of your day with them. So that's what I would have to add.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Especially the one where, like, sometimes a person needs comfort, sometimes a person needs solution, and sometimes you can just ask the person, hey, like, what do you want? Of course, with students, I don't know if you can do it, but then if they're older people, or if you think they're emotionally mature enough to ask that question, like, go for that. Sometimes they don't even know whether they need comfort or solution, and that is why at those times you sort of have to see which one they need and then uh, go and do that. It'll be hard to do both, but if you do have to like, try to do both, go comfort first, and then if they say there's a time issue, then go for the solution, because sometimes comfort is more important than the solution. But of course, if they say, hey, I have only 30 minutes to do this, but I really don't know what to do. And depending on what they say, sometimes, hey, maybe you could try this. And it also depends on like how they experience they are. Maybe if it's say an intern coming and talking to you as a supervisor, maybe this is a place where, hey, like maybe they're asking this because your relationship that you hold with that person. Yes, there's probably a place like say solutions, or it could be a husband wife relationship where the wife is talking about her office issues, and then it's not really something you can actively do anything about, and they want like tell you that, hey, so this happened in my life, and at that time, hey man, this happened in my life. And sometimes, so that time it's comfort, and sometimes it's just it's very important to also compliment and acknowledge happy emotions, positive emotions, and let them know, hey, what you're feeling right now is very good, I really like this side in you, and give them positive reinforcement in these things. Questions had. So everyone give your closing thoughts, and then we can end the recording.
One suggestion, I guess, or one thing that I had shared with a friend recently is something called an emotion wheel, where it breaks down common emotions like happy, sad, angry, tired, and it breaks it down into more specific emotions. And if you feel like self-awareness, the self-awareness part of emotional intelligence is something you want to work on for yourself, maybe an emotion wheel might be a nice place to start. And giving yourself as much compassion as you would give to someone else. You know, if a friend was telling you how bad they were doing, or if a child told you how bad they were doing or what they were feeling, you would give them a lot of care. So whatever emotions you're feeling, give yourself care and the space to experience it without judging yourself.
Very good point. Very good point. Yashika?
uh, it's good to be highly emotional quotient. It's good to be have that, but with that you have to we have to cope up with self awareness, self management, self empathetic, and etc. And we have a empathetic ear with others, so whenever anyone needs us, we are there without any second guessing. That's all from my side.
Okay, very important points. I would tend to say like something similar. So if you can take one thing from this discussion, maybe like after this discussion, uh, uh, take a paper, say, and then maybe like add self-awareness, self-management, empathy, social skill, and rate yourself out of 10. And then potentially like ask someone you trust, and then tell them to rate you, and then don't of course don't show your paper to them. And so with that you would get to know which one you're good at, which one you lack a bit, and by doing that you get to know what you need to work on. Because maybe you do have high EQ, you just don't know it because you don't have confidence, and maybe you're really good at it. And maybe you think you're good at it, but actually like, you might not have the empathy side or something like that. Or maybe you're good at empathy, you understand everything, and you just like beat yourself up, and you might just be bullying yourself. And if that is the case, okay, so that is where I need to improve. So depending on where you need to improve, like put it into these four like in the scale of four things. And then once you do that, you get to know what you need to improve, and then once you figure out what you need to improve, it's just about doing it. And that's something I believe you can. So that's all I have. Thank you so much for joining this discussion. I had a wonderful time. I learned a lot from this discussion. Thanks so much, Ilakkiya and Yashika, for giving your time for this discussion. The perspectives that you brought into this discussion were very impressive and very insightful. And I'm glad I was able to be part of this discussion. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.
Thanks for watching. For more discussions, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Also, make sure to like and comment more topics that you'd like to see us discuss. We'll see you next time.